Welcome back. In the last video, we learned about the importance of RSS feeds to our podcast, and we configured our feed with Seriously Simple Podcasting. In this video, we are going to create and publish our first episode. Before we get started, I should say that iTunes and other directories do not accept a blank feed, which means you need to have at least one episode published, which is the purpose of this video. It's common practice with podcasts to publish an episode 0, which serves as a trailer for the podcast. So it's basically the podcast creator talking about what you can expect from the show. That's exactly what we're going to do here. So we're going to go to Podcast, Add New, and we're going to enter the episode title, which is TIL Podcast Trailer. You might notice that we are not including the episode number. This is something that you shouldn't do for a few reasons, but iTunes really doesn't like it. And if somebody looks at your podcast when it's maybe 20 or 30 episodes in, all they're going to see is the word episode first. So what you should do is have a description of the episode, and then they can kind of glean what episode it is. You can always say it in the show, things like that. So we're not going to write episode 0 here. We're just going to say TIL Podcast Trailer. And the same thing goes for the description of the episode. You should avoid saying things like, in this episode, we're going to talk about this. In this episode is implied, and you have a limited number of characters that you get for the description that iTunes shows when people are looking at your podcast. So you want to get to the meat of it right away. So we're just going to have a short description here. That should be good enough for iTunes. If you want, you can have more, and if you have show notes, you should definitely include them in this area as well. Now it's time to upload the primary podcast file. This is going to be the audio file. So we're going to click Select Podcast File, and then we can upload one of the episodes. So you see I have a few already recorded here, but the first one is named 000-trailer. I like to name my podcast episodes with 3 digits in the front so I could quickly find what I'm looking for. You can see when the episode is uploaded, duration and file size are automatically added. You can also add a date recorded, so I recorded this today. I can mark this episode as explicit, but I'm not going to because it's not. And then we can state the episode number here. So I'm going to say this is episode number 0. You'll also notice a nice touch that Seriously Simple Podcasting allows you to specify an iTunes episode title. So if we go up here and we want the episode number to show up on our WordPress site like this, we can do that and still use this field to make sure that we're not using it in iTunes, which is super cool. This is what I would actually recommend here. So this will allow people reading your blog to quickly find the next episode, episode 0, but excluding it in the iTunes episode title, make sure that you are not just creating a list of every episode starting with the same word. And this is season 1. If you don't have seasons, you don't have to include this. And then we can choose an iTunes episode type. So this is specifically a trailer. So we can mark it as such, which is really cool. If we don't specify an excerpt, WordPress will automatically take the first few words of our description and move it into the excerpt. That's good enough for this. And with that, we are ready to publish. Now, I should say I'm not including a featured image, or perhaps what I'll do is add a featured image that's just the album artwork. I would recommend having a featured image. I'm also not going to include a series. I intend on using this website for one podcast and one podcast only, and I know that moving forward. If you think that there's a chance that you might be having more than one podcast on a website, then you should set up the series now. And for tags, I'll say trailer, promo, and TIL. So that's it. I'm going to publish this episode. And then if we view it on the front end, we see the album artwork. We see this fantastic player. And if we click play, you'll see that we've got our customized colors here too. Finally, if we go to the home page, you'll see that we have our episodes as well as our blog posts. And we should actually go ahead and delete this blog post, right? Because it's not really part of the show. So we'll do that as well. Now, there is one note here. This is pretty big album artwork. There's two things that I could do here. I could completely remove the featured image, but I don't think I want to do that. However, the artwork is showing up here. So what I'm going to do is go to Customize, go to Layout, Blog, and Blog/Archive. And I'm actually going to remove the featured image. So the featured image will only show up on the individual episode page now. If someone is browsing the front page, they could quickly view all of the episodes. Click Publish, and great, we now have one episode published. I'm going to go ahead and publish the other episodes I created so that we can see what a multi-episode setup looks like. All right, I've now gone ahead and added all 4 episodes I had, and this is what the homepage looks like. Now, if we click through to one of the episodes, we can see again the featured image, the podcast episode, and the full description. That's it for this video. In it, we learned how to create and publish our first episode. In the next video, we're going to look at how our Castos account is affected by working here completely in WordPress.